Hello and welcome to Skopje, the Macedonian capital, for this new edition of Europe District. 20 years after its declaration of independence, Skopje's progress towards EU membership is still blocked by a long-standing dispute with Greece over the name of this country. Athens still denies its northern neighbour the right to be called Macedonia, saying this would imply a territorial claim on a Greek province of the same name. Well, in this programme we'll tell you why the crisis worsened after the government in Skopje launched a controversial facelift of the capital. But we'll also taste the local cuisine, which is believed to be the Balkans' finest. But we'll start with our first story, and it's a clear sign tensions are still running high between Slav Macedonians and the large Albanian community in the country. In mid-October, the government abandoned a national census. This after the two communities accused each other of trying to boost official percentage. This is a report from our correspondent Alix Le Bourdon.
Stacks of census forms are being brought back one by one.
I'm bringing back the documents, those that have been completed, and the empty ones too.
All the census takers have been called back to their town halls. They've only been working for 10 days.
We're comparing the number of documents handed out at the start of the census to the number of documents returned. We're also working out the number of households that have completed the census forms.
When they're finished, this data will be sent to the statistical office, but it has no value. The census was steeped in controversy from the beginning and never saw an end. Macedonia decided to apply Eurostat criteria, the statistical office of the European Union. Those who'd lived abroad for over a year were not to be counted. Some Albanian census takers reportedly ignored this rule.
I don't see how they could have used false papers, how they could cheat like that. But I did hear that someone tried to get a dead person recognized.
These irregularities were unacceptable to members of the national census. They decided to resign en masse, all on the same day. The former president of the national census has packed up her office, ready to resume her job as a lawyer.
For me it was a big experience, but also a little bitter experience, because I wasn't part of the lawmaking, and some issues that were brought up later on, especially after the census started, were, if you ask me, not fair.
According to the census of 2002, citizens of Macedonian origin accounted for more than 64% of the population, and ethnic Albanians over 25%. Since the Ohrid Agreement, which averted a civil war between the two communities a decade ago, these statistics have defined their representation in the political system.
Unconsciously, we all try to ensure our rights through percentages. The Macedonians are trying to make us go below 20%, and we'll keep fighting for more than 20%.
20% is the threshold below which the ethnic Albanian population doesn't want to fall. The access of minorities to public office is governed by this figure.
Since our rights depend on this figure, Albanians are very attached to it. We believe that the census, held previously, did not reflect reality.
Now citizens of Macedonian and Albanian origin have passed on the responsibility. This retired couple, part of the Macedonians who were censured, regret the cancellation of the operation.
It's important to know how many Macedonians, Albanians, Turks there are, but it seems that those who failed to get the percentage they wanted have caused irregularities to ensure that the census is suspended.
A thinly veiled allusion to the Albanian community, which, in this area of Skopje, has generally welcomed the suspension of the census. Many here would like to see people living abroad being counted, which would help push up that all-important percentage. This man wanted his nephews and grandchildren, who've lived in Switzerland for 10 years, to be counted.
All family members should be counted. They only counted these 5. It's shameful.
As in other Balkan countries hosting large minority communities, a census exercise like this can be perilous, especially when power and influence rests on the right side of a percentage.
Well, for more on the story, I'm glad to be joined by the Macedonian Foreign Minister Nikola Popovski. Mr. Popovski, thank you for having us here at the Foreign Ministry in Skopje. Now, as we saw in this report, the census turned into a political story in your country. What this really shows is that 10 years after your country narrowly avoided a civil war, both communities are still at loggerheads.
It is indeed, you're right saying that it has a political dimension, and it's probably very true. This is where the problem lays. Still, the reason for basically not continuing till the end with the census and stopping it in the middle of it is a more methodological one. Basically, the only blame that can be attributed in this sense lays on the ground. So the application of different methodology of the people doing the census on the ground. Legislation-wise, everything is clear, and we are fully compliant and ready to have an operation that fits Eurostat standards.
When will the census resume?
We will benefit to make it happen as soon as possible. So that will be the idea. But we do not have an interest in conducting a census that will not provide us with reliable numbers.
Now, regarding your progress towards EU membership, you received candidate status in 2005 and still accession talks haven't been opened with Skopje. Is this because the pace of reforms has slowed down in your country?
I would not share the opinion that it goes too slow, because the changes that have emerged in this country, if we compare what we had as a system only 10 years ago and what we are having now, the way the judges are recruited, the weight of the decision-making power of the judges themselves on budget lines and on career prospects have evolved in a dramatic manner. Obviously, it will take us a few more years in order to get a system that will provide, let's say, a long-run sustainability on that side. And I think that we are getting really close. We have a lot of arguments that are making our case solid, and I think we should get away from the methodology of blockages that has prevented us from getting a date for negotiations.
Greece is still blocking progress towards EU and NATO membership because of a long-standing dispute over the name of your country. As we'll see in our next report, Athens accuses your government of stealing, of appropriating symbols of Greek identity. What do you respond?
I do not think that anyone in the region has the right to monopolize any sort of identity. What I would stick to, and I think that this is essential, is to have a democratic perspective to it. It will be quite undemocratic to let a people or identity to be attributed by someone else. And I think that the fact that we feel as Macedonians and we speak Macedonian language, we live in the Republic of Macedonia, are results of democratic processes. We have continuously provided guarantees that Macedonia does not represent a threat to Greece, and we have continuously been dedicated to making unilateral concessions in order for the Greek political elite to feel comfortable with it. Finally, the membership to NATO and EU of Macedonia is to mutual benefit from the Greek side, from our side, but also from EU and NATO perspective.
Nikola Popovski, Macedonian Foreign Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
In September, Macedonians celebrated the 20th anniversary of their independence. This was an opportunity for the government to showcase the new face of Skopje, a radical makeover of the city centre with the construction of 15 grand buildings and the controversial statue officially known as the warrior on a horse. This statue has enraged Athens, which says there's no doubt this is Alexander the Great. Once again, Athens accuses its northern neighbour of appropriating symbols of Greek identity.
The warriors stand ready to attack, lions roar, and the horses rear up. If it's not Alexander the Great, it certainly resembles him. On a sunny day like this, many come to admire the new statue, but Katerina isn't one of them.
This monument doesn't work at all with the rest of the town centre. It's a mixture of styles. We have many artists who could have done much better.
The Great Warrior, that's the statue's official name, has started many conversations, and not just about what it looks like. It's a monument that glorifies the country's ancient past. However, this Greek man in Skopje on business doesn't appreciate the symbolism.
Alexander is Greek. They think that he's one of their own, so we have that problem.
The monument has awakened an old controversy. Greece has refused to recognize Macedonia as the name of the country. That's the reason this Macedonian enjoys seeing the warrior monument.
In world history, there is no case of conflict equivalent to that between Greece and Macedonia. No other country denies the identity of another like this. Now with this statue, the world will be able to see who we are.
The monument is part of a large urban project called Skopje 2014. Throughout the city, statues and buildings are under construction. Some Albanians, the largest minority in the country, have started to feel left out.
It was highly unacceptable for the Albanian community to see this mono-ethnic and mono-religious and monocultural project, in particular because it was being paid from budgetary money in which the Albanians are contributing with at least 1/3 of the total amount.
This video of the project was released by the authorities in early 2010. Bronze monuments, obelisks, fountains, domes, a mixture of classical and Baroque architecture.
When I see this project, I feel that the guns have fallen silent in the Balkans, but the war continues through these monuments.
The projects also pose problems of town planning. This architect has watched Skopje evolve since the communist era. Now, when he takes a walk, he has trouble recognizing his own city.
The functions of these buildings are incompatible. For example, this building, which is, quote, the jewel in the crown, will bring together the Archaeological Museum, the Constitutional Court, as well as parts of various ministries.
The lack of government transparency has also been a cause for concern. One NGO has had the idea to broadcast a debate live on the internet.
We were told it would cost 80 million euros, but it's not over yet, and it's already taken 250 million euros.
The expense has been entirely funded by the state budget, a controversial decision at a time of financial crisis. However, this economist sees possible benefits in the short term.
The construction of these buildings around us has mobilized a large chunk of the building sector in Macedonia. We know that this sector is the engine for economic growth in a country. But I agree, further effort must be made with regard to infrastructure, highways, the rail network, pipelines.
Work on the buildings has certainly brought a dynamism to the construction industry. Now the city waits for more statues. These ones will arrive from abroad, though, ready to be installed.
When you ask people in the Balkans what's so special about this country, well, they will no doubt tell you its cuisine. Local specialties combine Ottoman flavors and Central European tastes. Our reporter met Adriana Alachki. She's a local TV celebrity who promotes traditional Macedonian cuisine.
Hello there, viewers. It's Friday, so that means we're eating beans, following the Macedonian tradition.
Recipe of the day, a tafta gvache, or fried beans, accompanied by a mixture of red pepper. A vegetarian dish that Adriana has concocted for her daily show.
This is the most famous Macedonian dish. We say to visitors who come to Macedonia, if they don't taste the tafta gvache, they haven't tasted anything. The recipe's more than 300 years old.
Adriana's program aims to recreate dishes and cooking methods from the past. Since it was launched in May, she's gone through more than 100 recipes. Bojanka often records the show to watch it with her mother and her friend.
The show reminds me of my childhood, when my grandma and after that my mother was cooking these Macedonian traditional recipes.
Adriana has put her ideas into a cookbook. It's the first publication dedicated to Macedonian cuisine.
A while ago in Macedonia, you could only go to foreign restaurants. I have nothing against them, but it was annoying when I had foreign friends visiting who wanted to taste local food.
Even so, Macedonian cuisine is known far beyond the Balkans. To enhance her recipes, Adriana has been meeting with cooks every day. Svetlana, for example, has passed on a few cooking secrets.
Macedonian cuisine is very diverse. There are meat dishes, but also vegetarian ones. Because of the Christian tradition of not eating meat on Friday, we use garlic, parsley, fresh or dried peppers, lots of cabbage too.
Adriana's back on the set for the second part of the show.
This is my favourite moment, when we taste what I've cooked.
After an hour in the oven, here comes the famous tafta grace. For Adriana, the recipe isn't everything.
Traditionally, the recipe is cooked in earthenware dishes like this. Then it's served in dishes like these, with wooden spoons.
It's the end of the recording, but Adriana doesn't want to leave without one final message.
A special hello to all the viewers of France 24. I invite you to come and discover Macedonia.
And it's already the end of the first part of our program. We'll leave you with a view of the Calais, the old fortress of Skopje. Europe District returns after the news break. We'll travel to Albania, the land of the eagles. So please stay with us.